Then monks, after many years, many hundreds and thousands of years had passed, Prince Vipassi said to his charioteer, "Harness some fine carriages, charioteer. We will go to the pleasure park to inspect it." The charioteer did so, then reported to the prince, "Your Royal Highness, the fine carriages are harnessed. It is time to do as you wish." And Prince Vipassi mounted a carriage and drove in procession to the pleasure park. And as was being driven to the pleasure park, Prince Vipassi saw an aged man, bent like a roof beam, broken, leaning on a stick, tottering, sick, his youth all vanished. At the sight he said to the charioteer, "Charioteer, what is the matter with this man? His hair is not like other men's. His body is not like other men's." And the charioteer said, "Prince, that is what is called an old man." And the prince said, "But why is he called an old man?" And the charioteer said, "He is called old, prince, because he has not long to live." Then the prince said, "But am I liable to become old and not exempt from old age?" And the charioteer said, "Both you and I, prince, are liable to become old and are not exempt from old age." Then the prince said, "Well then, charioteer, that will do for today with the pleasure park. Return now to the palace." "Very good, prince," said the charioteer, and brought Prince Vipassi back to the palace. Arrived there, Prince Vipassi was overcome with grief and dejection, crying, "Shame on this thing birth, since to him who is born, old age must manifest itself." Then King Banduma sent for the charioteer and said, "Well, did not the prince enjoy himself at the pleasure park? Wasn't he happy there?" And the charioteer said, "Your Majesty, the prince did not enjoy himself. He was not happy there." And the king said, "What did he see on the way there?" So the charioteer told the king all that had happened. Then King Banduma thought, "Prince Vipassi must not renounce the throne. He must not go forth from the household life into homelessness. The words of the Brahmins learned in science must not come true." So the king provided for Prince Vipassi to have even more enjoyment of the fivefold sense pleasures, in order that he should rule the kingdom and not go forth from the household life into homelessness. Thus the prince continued to live, indulging in and addicted to the fivefold sense pleasures. After many hundreds of thousands of years, Prince Vipassi ordered his charioteer to drive to the pleasure park. And as was being driven to the pleasure park, Prince Vipassi saw a sick man, suffering, very ill, fallen in his own urine and excrement, and some people were picking him up and others putting him to bed. At the sight he said to the charioteer, "What's the matter with this man? His eyes are not like other men's. His head is not like other men's." And the charioteer said, "Prince, that is what is called a sick man." "But why is he called a sick man?" "Prince, he is so called because he can hardly recover from his illness." And the prince said, "But am I liable to become sick and not exempt from sickness?" And the charioteer said, "Both you and I, prince, are liable to become sick and not exempt from sickness." And the prince said, "Well then, charioteer, return now to the palace." Arrived there, Prince Vipassi was overcome with grief and dejection, crying, "Shame on this thing birth, since he who is born must experience sickness." Then King Banduma sent for the charioteer and told him what had happened. The king provided Prince Vipassi with even more sense pleasures in order that he should rule the kingdom and not go forth from the household life into homelessness. After many hundreds of thousands of years, Prince Vipassi ordered his charioteer to drive to the pleasure park. And as he was being driven to the pleasure park, Prince Vipassi saw a large crowd collecting, clad in many colors and carrying a bier. At the sight he said to the charioteer, Why are those people doing that?" And the charioteer said, "Prince, that is what they call a dead man. Drive me over to where the dead man is." "Very good, prince," said the charioteer, and did so. And Prince Vipassi gazed at the corpse of the dead man. Then he said to the charioteer, "Why is he called a dead man?" "Prince, he is called a dead man because now his parents and other relatives will not see him again, nor he them." "But am I subject to dying, not exempt from dying?" And the charioteer said, "Both you and I, prince, are subject to dying, not exempt from it." "Well then, charioteer, that will do for today with the pleasure park. Return now to the palace." Arrived there, Prince Vipassi was overcome with grief and dejection, crying, "Shame on this thing birth, since to him who is born, death must manifest itself." Then King Banduma sent for the charioteer, who told him what had happened. The king provided Prince Vipassi with even more sense pleasures. After many hundreds of thousands of years, Prince Vipassi ordered his charioteer to drive to the pleasure park. And as he was being driven to the pleasure park, Prince Vipassi saw a shaven-headed man who had gone forth wearing a yellow robe. And he said to the charioteer, "What is the matter with that man? His head is not like other men's, and his clothes are not like other men's." And the charioteer said, "Prince, he is called one who has gone forth." "Why is he called one who has gone forth?" "Prince, by one who has gone forth, we mean one who truly follows Dhamma, who truly lives in serenity, does good actions, performs meritorious deeds, is harmless and truly has compassion for living beings." "Charioteer, he is well called one who has gone forth. Drive the carriage over to where he is." "Very good, Prince," said the charioteer, and did so. And Prince Vipassi questioned the man who had gone forth. And the renunciant said, "Prince, as one who has gone forth, I truly follow Dhamma. I live in serenity, does good actions, performs meritorious deeds, is harmless and truly has compassion for living beings." And the prince said, "You are well called one who has gone forth." Then Prince Vipassi said to the charioteer, "You take the carriage and drive back to the palace, but I shall stay here and shave off my hair and beard, put on yellow robes, and go forth from the household life into homelessness." "Very good," said the charioteer, and returned to the palace. And Prince Vipassi, shaving off his hair and beard and putting on yellow robes, went forth from the household life into homelessness. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, this legend, even about our Buddha Sakyamuni, Buddha Gautama, the legend, the story is that the Buddha saw these four sights. A sick man, an old man, a dead man, and a renunciant, and that shook him up. But if you look at this story, sounds a bit ridiculous. Why must he go out and see an old man, a sick man, a dead man? As he grows up, he will see his relatives growing old. He will see his mother, his grandparents all growing old and becoming sick and dying. Just like all of us, as we go through life, we see our relatives and go through all these things. You don't have to go out and look for all these sights. So this is one of those things that sounds a bit ridiculous. And a great crowd from the royal capital city, Bandumati, 84,000 people, heard that Prince Vipassi had gone forth into homelessness. And they thought, "This is certainly no common teaching and discipline, no common going forth, for which Prince Vipassi has shaved off hair and beard, donned yellow robes and gone forth into homelessness. If the prince has done so, why should not we?" And so monks, a great crowd of 80,000, having shaved off their hair and beards and donned yellow robes, followed the Bodhisattva Vipassi into homelessness. And with this following, the Bodhisattva went on his rounds through villages, towns and royal cities. Then the Bodhisattva Vipassi, having retired to a secluded spot, had this thought, "It is not proper for me to live with a crowd like this. I must live alone, withdrawn from this crowd." So after a while, he left the crowd and dwelt alone. The 84,000 went one way, the Bodhisattva another. Then when the Bodhisattva has entered his dwelling, alone, in a secluded spot, he thought, "This world, alas, is in a sorry state. There is birth and aging or decay. There is death and falling into other states and being reborn. And no one knows any way of escape from this suffering, this aging and death. When will deliverance be found from this suffering, this aging and death?" And then monks, the Bodhisattva thought, "With what being present does aging and death occur? What conditions aging and death?" And then monks, as a result of the wisdom born of profound consideration, the realization dawned on him. Birth being present, aging and death occurs. Birth conditions aging and death. Then he thought, what conditions birth? And the realization dawned on him. Being or becoming conditions birth. What conditions being? Clinging or attachment conditions being. Craving conditions clinging or attachment. Feeling conditions craving. Contact conditions feeling. The six sense bases condition contact. Mentality and materiality conditions the six sense bases. Consciousness conditions mentality and materiality. And then the Bodhisattva thought, the Bodhisattva Vipassī thought, with what being present does consciousness occur? What conditions consciousness? And then as a result of the wisdom born of profound consideration, the realization dawned on him. Mind and body or mentality and materiality conditions consciousness. Then monks, the Bodhisattva Vipassī thought, this consciousness turns back at mentality and materiality. It does not go any further. To this extent, there is birth and decay. There is death and falling into other states and being reborn. Namely, mentality and materiality conditions consciousness. Consciousness conditions mentality and materiality. Mentality and materiality conditions the six sense bases. The six sense bases conditions contact. Contact conditions feeling. Feeling conditions craving. Craving conditions clinging. Clinging conditions being. Being conditions birth. Birth conditions aging and death. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and distress. And thus this whole mass of suffering takes its origin. And at the thought, origin, there arose in the Bodhisattva Vipassī with insight into things never realized before, knowledge, wisdom, awareness and light. Then he thought, what now, being absent, does aging and death not occur? With the cessation of what comes the cessation of aging and death? Then as a result of the wisdom born of profound consideration, the realization dawned on him. Birth being absent, aging and death does not occur. With the cessation of birth comes the cessation of aging and death. With the cessation of what comes the cessation of birth? With the cessation of being comes the cessation of birth. With the cessation of clinging comes the cessation of being. With the cessation of craving comes the cessation of clinging. With the cessation of feeling comes the cessation of craving. With the cessation of contact comes the cessation of feeling. With the cessation of the six sense bases comes the cessation of contact. With the cessation of mentality and materiality comes the cessation of the six sense bases. With the cessation of consciousness comes the cessation of mentality and materiality. With the cessation of mentality and materiality comes the cessation of consciousness. Stop here for a moment. So here is the dependent origination of suffering. But here we find there are only 10 links. Only 10 links instead of the usual 12. And according to the commentary, it says here, only one lifetime is meant. If only one time is meant, then even with the 12 links, also one lifetime can be meant. Then the Bodhisattva Vipassī thought, I have found the Vipassana way to enlightenment, namely by the cessation of body and consciousness, the cessation of mentality and materiality, consciousness ceases. By the cessation of consciousness, mentality and materiality ceases. Stop here for a moment. So here it says, I found the Vipassana way. This also shows that this is probably a later addition, because later monks, they always like to talk about the Vipassana way. By the cessation of the six sense bases, contact ceases. By the cessation of contact, feeling ceases. By the cessation of feeling, craving ceases. By the cessation of craving, clinging ceases. By the cessation of clinging, being ceases. By the cessation of being, birth ceases. By the cessation of birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and distress cease. And thus this whole mass of suffering ceases. And at the thought, cessation, there arose in the Bodhisattva Vipassī with insight into things never realized before, knowledge, vision, awareness and light. Then monks, at another time the Bodhisattva Vipassī dwelt, contemplating the rise and fall of the five aggregates of clinging. Such is body, such is arising, such is passing away. Such is feeling, such is perception, such is volition, such is consciousness, such their arising, such their passing away. And as he remained contemplating the rise and fall of the five aggregates of clinging, before long his mind was freed from the asavas without remainder. I'll stop here for a moment. So here he's saying that by contemplating the five aggregates of attachment, this bodhisattva vipassi attained enlightenment, which is the destruction of the asavas. Then monks, the Blessed Lord, Arahant Sammasambuddha Vipassi, thought, suppose now I were to teach Dhamma. And then he thought, I have attained to this Dhamma which is profound, hard to see, hard to grasp, peaceful, excellent, beyond reasoning, subtle, to be apprehended by the wise. But this generation delights in clinging, rejoices in it, and revels in it. But for those who so delight, rejoice, and revel in clinging, this matter is hard to see, namely the conditioned nature of things or dependent origination. Equally hard to see would be the calming of all the volitions, the abandonment of all the substrates of rebirth, the waning of craving, dispassion, cessation, nibbana. And if I were to teach Dhamma to others and they did not understand me, that would be a weariness and a trouble to me. And to the Lord Buddha Vipassi, there occurred spontaneously this verse, never previously heard. This that I have attained, why should I proclaim? Those full of lust and hate can never grasp it. Leading upstream this Dhamma, subtle, deep, hard to see, no passion-blinded folk can see it. And as the Lord Buddha Vipassi pondered thus, his mind was inclined to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. And monks, the Lord Buddha Vipassi's reasoning became mentally known to a certain great Brahma. And he thought, alas, the world is perishing, it will be destroyed because the mind of Vipassi, the Blessed Lord, Arahant Samma Sambuddha, is inclined to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. So this great Brahma, as swiftly as a strong man might stretch his flexed arm or flex it again, disappeared from the Brahma world and reappeared before the Lord Buddha Vipassi. Arranging his upper robe over one shoulder and kneeling on his right knee, he saluted the Lord Buddha Vipassi with joined hands and said, Lord, may the Blessed Lord teach Dhamma. May the wayfarer teach Dhamma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing Dhamma. They will become knowers of Dhamma. Then the Lord Buddha Vipassi explained why he inclined to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. And the great Brahma appealed the second and the third time to the Lord Buddha Vipassi to teach. Then the Lord Buddha Vipassi, recognizing Brahma's appeal and moved by compassion for beings, surveyed the world with his Buddha eye. And he saw beings with little dust in their eyes and with much dust, with faculties sharp and dull, of good and bad disposition, easy and hard to teach, and few of them living in fear of transgression and of the next world. And just as in a pool of red, blue or white lotuses, some are born in the water, some grow in the water, and not leaving the water, thrive in the water. Some are born in the water and reach the surface, while some are born in the water and having reached the surface go out of the water and are not polluted by it. In the same way, monks, the Lord Buddha Vipassi, surveying the world with his Buddha eye, saw some beings with little dust in their eyes, etc. Then, knowing his thought, the great Brahma addressed the Lord Buddha Vipassi in these verses. As on a mountain peak, a watcher sees the folk below, so man of wisdom, seeing all, look down from Dhamma's heights. Free from woe, look on those who are sunk in grief, oppressed with birth and age. Arise, hero, victor in battle, leader of the caravan. Traverse the world, teach, O Lord, the Dhamma, and they will understand. And the Lord Buddha Vipassi replied to the great Brahma in verse, Open to them are the doors of the deathless. Let those that hear now put forth faith. For fear of trouble I did not preach at first the excellent Dhamma for men, Brahma. Then that great Brahma, thinking have been the cause of the Lord Buddha Vipassi's preaching Dhamma, made obeisance to the Lord Buddha, and passing by to his right, vanished there and then. Stop here for a moment. So this part about how the Buddha Vipassi decided not to teach, and then later the Mahabrahma came to appeal to him and he taught. This is just quite the same as what happened to our Buddha Gautama. So it looks like they just copied the whole thing from the suttas and the Vinaya concerning the Buddha Gautama for the Buddha Vipassi. Then the Lord Buddha Vipassi taught, to whom should I first teach this Dhamma? Who would understand it quickly? Then he taught, there are Kanda, the king's son, and Tissa, the chaplain's son, living in the capital city of Bandumati. They are wise, learned, experienced, and for a long time have had little dust in their eyes. If now I teach Dhamma first to Kanda and Tissa, they will understand it quickly. And so the Lord Buddha Vipassi, as swiftly as a strong man might stretch out his flexed arm, or flex it again, vanished there and then from the root of that tree of enlightenment, and reappeared in the royal capital of Bandumati, in the deer park of Kema. And the Lord Buddha Vipassi said to the park keeper, Keeper, go to Bandumati and say to Prince Kanda and the chaplain's son Tissa, my lords, Vipassi, the blessed Lord, Arhan Sammasambuddha, has come to Bandumati and is staying in the deer park of Kema. He wishes to see you. Very good Lord, said the park keeper, and went and delivered the message. Then Kanda and Tissa, having harnessed some fine carriages, drove out of Bandumati, making for the deer park of Kema. They took the carriages as far as they could go, then alighted and continued on foot till they came to the Lord Buddha Vipassi. When they reached him, they made obeisance to him and sat down to one side. And the Lord Buddha Vipassi delivered to them a graduated discourse on generosity, on morality, on heaven, showing the danger, degradation and corruption of sense desires, and the profit of renunciation. And when the Lord Buddha Vipassi knew that the minds of Kanda and Tissa were ready, pliable, free from the hindrances, joyful and calm, then he preached the Buddha's special sermon in brief, on suffering, its origin, its cessation and the path. And just as a clean cloth from which all stains have been removed receives the dye perfectly, so in Prince Kanda and Tissa, the chaplain's son, as he sat there arose a pure and spotless Dhamma eye, and they knew whatever things have an origin must come to cessation. And they, having seen, attained, experienced and penetrated the Dhamma, having passed beyond doubt, having gained perfect confidence in the teacher's doctrine without relying on others, said, Excellent Lord, excellent. It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who had got lost, or to bring an oil lamp into a dark place, so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so the Blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways. We go for refuge to the Lord, to the Dhamma. May we receive the going forth at the Lord's hands. May we receive ordination. Stop here for a moment. At that time there was no Sangha yet, so they did not take the triple refuge. They took the double refuge. And so Prince Kanda and Tissa, the chaplain's son, received the going forth at the hands of the Lord Buddha Vipassi, and they received ordination. Then the Lord Buddha Vipassi instructed them with a discourse on Dhamma, inspired them, fired them and delighted them, showing the danger, degradation and corruption of conditioned things, and the profit of Nibbana. And through their being inspired, fired and delighted with this discourse, it was not long before their minds were freed from the asavas without remainder. That means they became enlightened. And a great crowd of 84,000 people from Bandumati heard that the Lord Buddha Vipassi was staying in the deer park of Kema, and that Kanda and Tissa had shaved off their hair and beards, donned yellow robes, and gone forth from the household life into homelessness. And they thought, this is certainly no common teaching and discipline, for which Prince Kanda and Tissa, the chaplain's son, have gone forth into homelessness. If they can do this in the presence of the Lord Buddha Vipassi, why should not we? And so this great crowd of 84,000 left Bandumati for the deer park of Kema, where the Lord Buddha Vipassi was. When they came to him, they made obeisance to him and sat down to one side. And the Lord Buddha Vipassi delivered to them a graduated discourse on generosity, on morality and on heaven, showing the danger, degradation and corruption of sense desires, and the profit of renunciation. And just as a clean cloth receives the dye perfectly. So in those 84,000, as they sat there arose a pure and spotless Dhamma eye, and they knew whatever things have an origin must come to cessation. And those 84,000 received the going forth at the hands of the Lord Buddha Vipassi. They received ordination, and the Lord Buddha Vipassi instructed them with the discourse on Dhamma. And it was not long before their minds were freed from the asavas without remainder. Then the first 84,000 who had gone forth heard, the Lord Buddha Vipassi has come to Bandumati and is staying in the deer park teaching Dhamma. And all happened as before, and it was not long before their minds were freed from the asavas without remainder. At that time, in the royal capital of Bandumati, there was a vast gathering of 6,800,000 monks. And when the Lord Buddha Vipassi had withdrawn into seclusion, he thought, there is now this great gathering of monks here in the capital. Suppose I were to give them permission, wander abroad, monks, for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the welfare, happiness of devas and humans. Do not two go together, monks, but teach the Dhamma that is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, and lovely in its ending, both in the letter and in the spirit, and display the holy life, fully complete and perfect. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing Dhamma. They will become knowers of Dhamma. But at the end of 6 years precisely, you are to come together to the royal capital of Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code. Then a great Mahabrahma, having divined the Lord Buddha Vipassi's thought, as swiftly as a strong man might stretch his flexed arm or flex it again, vanished from the Brahma world and appeared before the Lord Buddha Vipassi. Arranging his robe over one shoulder and saluting the Lord with joined palms, he said, "Just so, O Lord, just so, O welfarer. Let the Lord give permission to this great gathering to wander abroad for the good of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing Dhamma. They will become knowers of Dhamma, and we too will do the same as the monks. At the end of 6 years, we will come together to the royal capital of Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code, the Patimokkha." Having spoken thus, the Brahma made obeisance to the Lord Buddha and passing by to his right vanished there and then. And so the Lord Vipassi, emerging from the seclusion of his rest period, told the monks what had occurred. "I allow you monks to wander abroad for the good of the many, for the welfare and happiness of devas and humans. Do not two go together, monks, but teach the Dhamma that is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, lovely in its ending, both in the letter and in the spirit, and display the holy life, fully complete and perfect. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing Dhamma. They will become knowers of Dhamma. But at the end of 6 years, precisely, you are to come together to the royal capital of Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code." And the majority of those monks that left that very day to wander about the country. And at that time, there were 84,000 religious residences in Jambudipa. And at the end of 1 year, the devas would proclaim, "Gentlemen, 1 year has passed, 5 remain. At the end of 5 years, you are to return to Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code." And similarly, at the end of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And when 6 years had passed, the devas announced, "Gentlemen, 6 years have passed. It is now time to go to the royal capital of Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code." And those monks, some by their own psychic powers, and some by that of the devas, all in one day came to Bandumati to recite the disciplinary code. And then the Lord Buddha Vipassi gave to the assembled monks the following precepts. "Patient forbearance is the highest sacrifice. Supreme is Nibbana, so say the Buddhas. He is not one gone forth who hurts others, nor ascetic he who harms another. Not to do any evil, but cultivate the good, to purify one's mind. This is the Buddha's teaching. Not insulting, not harming, restraint according to the rule, moderation in food, seclusion of dwelling, devotion to high thinking. This the Buddhas teach." Once monks, I was staying at Ukata in the Subhaga group at the foot of a great sal tree, and as I dwelt there in seclusion, it occurred to me, there is no abode of beings easily accessible that has not been visited by me for so long as that of the devas of the pure abodes. Suppose I were to visit them now, and then as swiftly as a strong man might stretch his flexed arm, or flex it again, I vanished from the Ukata and appeared among the Aviha Devas, and many thousands of them came to me, saluted me and stood to one side. Then they said, Sir, it is 91 aeons since the Lord Buddha Vipassi appeared in the world. The Lord Buddha Vipassi was born of Katya race and arose in the Katya family. He was of the Kondanya clan. In his time, the lifespan was 80,000 years. He gained his full enlightenment under a trumpet flower tree. He had a pair of noble disciples, Kanda and Tissa. He had 3 assemblies of his disciples, one of 6,800,000, one of 100,000, and one of 80,000 monks, all of whom were Arahants. His chief personal attendant was the monk Asoka. His father was King Banduma. His mother was Queen Bandumati, and his father's royal capital was Bandumati. The Lord Buddha Vipassi's renunciation was like this, his going forth like this, his striving like this, his full enlightenment like this, his turning of the wheel like this. And we, sir, who live the holy life under the Lord Buddha Vipassi, having freed ourselves from sense desires, have arisen here. In the same way, many thousands of devas came, referring similarly to Sikhi and other Buddhas, as in verse 1.12. They said, Sir, in this fortunate aeon now, the Lord Buddha has arisen in the world. He is born of a Katya race. He is of the Gotama clan. In his time, the lifespan is short, limited and quick to pass. It is seldom that anybody lives to be 100. He gained his full enlightenment under an asata tree. He has a pair of noble disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana. He has one assembly of disciples, 1,250 monks, who are all Arahants. His chief personal attendant is Ananda. His father is Raja Suddhodana. His mother is Queen Maya, and his royal capital is Kapilavatu. Such was the Lord's renunciation, such is going forth, such is striving, such is full enlightenment, such is turning of the wheel. And we, sir, who have lived a holy life under the Lord, having freed ourselves from sense desires, have arisen here. Then I went with the Adibiha Devas to see the Atapa Devas, and with these to see the Suddasa Devas, and with these to see the Suddasi Devas, and with all of these to see the Akanita Devas. And there many thousands of Devas came, saluted me and stood to one side, saying, Sir, it is 91 aeons since the Lord Buddha Vipassi appeared in the world, etc. And so it is, monks, that by his penetration of the fundamentals of Dhamma, the Tathagata remembers the past Buddhas who have attained final Nibbana, cutting through multiplicity, blazing a trail, have exhausted the round, have passed by all suffering. He recalls their births, their names, their clan, their lifespan, their twin disciples, their assemblies of disciples. These blessed lords were born thus, were called thus was their clan, thus was their morality, their Dhamma, their wisdom, their dwelling, thus was their liberation. Thus the Lord spoke, and the monks delighted, rejoiced at his words. That's the end of the sutta. This last part about the Devas, the Aviha Devas, Atapa Devas, Suddasa Devas, Suddasi Devas, and Akanita Devas refers to the 5 levels of the pure abodes. The pure abodes are Suddhavasa heavens. The Suddhavasa heavens are the pure abodes. And only the Anagamins, those who have attained third fruition, Arya, can be reborn in that heaven. So this sutta, as I mentioned, is not an important sutta. It's one of those suttas that try to praise the Buddhas. Every religion you find that they tend to praise the founder of the religion, and they very often go overboard. Just like in the Christian religion, they say that Jesus' mother was a virgin who gave birth to Jesus. So in the early Mahayana books also you find, they also say that the Buddha's mother was a virgin. So here also the other things are all a bit airy-fairy, as they say. How do you say in Chinese? What's the term in Chinese? more, they're higher than normal. No. No. What's the term? Yeah. Something to do with Pula, Putong, Putong, more than, higher than Pu. What do you call it? No. Li Pu. Li Po. Li Po. Li Pu. Yeah.